Hello and welcome to Cinematography. I'm Don Perignon, saving you from getting ripped off. From as early as man can walk, we've been trying to find ways to entertain ourselves.
From watching gladiators tear one another apart in coliseums to drunken orgies, man has tried to keep civilization from collapsing out of sheer boredom. Problem was, not all of our methods for repelling this destructive force was what you would consider humane.
That was until 1927 when the first home television set was introduced.
What's that? Want to see a lot of blood and guts? We got that. Need to shit your pants in fear? We got that. Adrenaline junkie looking for a rush of action? We got that too. Tragic romance your thing? We even got that. Want to see children violated?
We don't have that. And you should visit a psychiatrist.
But whatever your fancy, save the previous mentioned,
No, seriously, you need help.
television has got you covered.
However, there is a dark side to television. Deep within the halls of television studios, there is a dark, gloomy, depressing area that no one likes to talk about. The mere utter of this area fills television employees with dread. It is known as the Can Zone.
The Can Zone is a lonely, dreary place where canceled television shows go to be forgotten and die. Although most of the shows are here for good reason, yeah, I'm looking at you, Pan Am, not all end up here because they were relatively bad. Some just couldn't get the ratings and needed to stay on the air, which is why I thought it was time to shine a new light on some of them to see if they rightfully ended up in the Can Zone.
Now, before we get started, although anarchy can be great, not in this case. So here are a few rules. Number one, since this is an American-based show, we'll only be looking at American television. Number two, we'll only be looking at the rarely known shows that had no more than 2 seasons, which means no syndication. Number three, we will not be looking at any shows that only aired a pilot, since one episode doesn't make a show. Number four, cartoons do count, but only if they solely aired on prime time. And finally, we'll only be looking at shows that aired on network television. Sorry, Dead by Me fans. With that being said, without further ado, here are 9 forgotten television shows for better or for worse. Why 9? Because I'm too lazy to think of 10.
It's funny how I seem to be the only one who remembers this show, but remember it I do. Hot off the success of Raiders of the Lost Ark, ABC tried its hand at facing Nazis with Tales of the Golden Monkey. Airing in 1982, the show is based in 1932 and centers around ex-Flying Tiger pilot Jack Cutter.
Which doesn't make sense since the Flying Tigers didn't exist until 1941.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Jack now operates an air cargo delivery service in the South Pacific. Sound familiar? That's right. Tailspin was based on this show. Only Tailspin was successful.
Okay, so here's where things get really convoluted. Hang on to your britches, folks.
Jack's co-pilot is a drunk named Corky. There's a Reverend Williams who's a Nazi spy. Jack's love interest is an American spy undercover at a place called the Monkey Bar, owned by a French magistrate whose nemesis is a Japanese princess who's always accompanied by a Bushido practitioner bodyguard and has the hots for Jack. Oh, and there's a one-eyed dog named Jake who conversates with people by barking twice for yes and once for no.
Well, that's just silly.
No wonder the show got canceled after one season. With all that going on, who could keep up? When I went to Wikipedia to refresh my memory of the show, other than Jake, Jack, and Courtney, I didn't remember any of that. It makes you wonder when the hell they had time to look for the golden monkey, the main premise of the show. I don't remember why they wanted that thing. Maybe it was magical or something. The show ran 22-hour-long episodes and got 4 Emmy nominations, winning one of them for Outstanding Art Director for a Series, or whatever that is. Too bad an Emmy didn't stop them from getting canned.
Man, that's just mean. That's mean, man.
This is how it all began, the true story of two good friends. Since the age of 5 could spin their dream.
I can't right now.
MANTIS, which stood for Mechanical Augmented Neurotransmitter Interception System,
Try saying that 3 times fast.
ran 22-hour-long episodes on Fox from August 22nd, 1994 to March 3rd, 1995. The story is a wealthy scientist named Miles Hawkins was shot by a police sniper while saving a child during a riot, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down.
Get it? Miles Hawkins? A scientist in a wheelchair? Thank God TV has become more subtle. That's not their fault. It was written in the 90s.
He creates a suit that not only allows him to walk, but is bulletproof and gives him super speed, strength, and agility, so he becomes a vigilante.
Basically, he's the Black Iron Man.
This was a pretty decent show. It had its silly episodes, but as a whole, it wasn't too bad. It had crime fighting, it was political, it had fancy gadgets, supervillains, and even a big bad. I don't know why this show was canceled. I mean, there are a few rumors here and there about the reasons, but we don't deal with rumors around here, just facts, so we're just going to ignore those. The final episode, I have to say, was ballsy and unexpected for the 90s. I'm not going to say how it ends. You'll just have to check it out for yourself. Trust me, it's worth the watch. The Wizard. This was a show I watched every week. The basic plot is the world's greatest inventor named Simon used to work for the US government until he no longer saw eye to eye with them and disappears. When he resurfaces as an innovative toy maker, the government assigns him an agent named Alex Jagger as his protection detail.
Now, this may seem far-fetched today, but back in the 80s, scientists were considered to be the most important people in the world, especially after Einstein's defection from Germany changed the tide of the war. So it wasn't that far of a stretch. It wasn't until someone tried to assassinate President Reagan did we remember, oh yeah, that guy's important too.
The two would go on different adventures with a few other minor characters helping out people in need. The show was actually ahead of its time. For one thing, the lead was a dwarf played by a dwarf, something unheard of in the 80s. There was dwarves on television, but none with a lead role. And no, Gary Coleman and Emmanuel Lewis are not dwarves. There was apparently a main villain in the show too, but being 9 years old at the time, I don't remember any of that. What I remember is the toys. Although they were things that could never exist in reality even today, they were some of the coolest toys a kid could ever want. I mean, who would want a remote-controlled helicopter you flew with your mind? The show was pretty heavy on messages too, like nothing's wrong with being different, there's a solution to every problem, never give up hope. But the one lesson they pushed most of all is using your imagination.
No amount of money can buy what you've got. The other costumes were good, but yours has something special. Imagination. Making the most of what you have, that's what really counts.
It's gonna be impossible for me to ever get big either. I'm not gonna live long enough to...
Brian, nothing is impossible. Anything you can imagine can happen.
What do you mean? We can't do any of that stuff.
Of course you can. In your head, in your imagination. That's the best place to play.
And when you get older, your imagination will create all kinds of fetishes.
One of the few primetime shows geared towards children, it premiered on September 9, 1986 and ran for one season on CBS before being canceled. Despite thousands of letters and signed petitions to bring the show back, the studio execs refused and it has yet to have a DVD release. Now the show is a little slow by today's standards, but it still has its overall charm and is worth checking out if you can find it, if simply for its nostalgic value.
This is how it all began, the true story of two good friends. Since the age of 5 could spin their dream.
Nope.
Man, I love this show. Created by Steven Spielberg, Amazing Stories aired on NBC from September 29, 1985 to April 10, 1987. Much like The Twilight Zone, it was an anthology series. However, in Amazing Stories, the tone was more comedy than horror. The episodes vary from being focused towards children or towards adults, so as a child, there were quite a few episodes I didn't understand. One such episode is One for the Road. In this episode, a group of guys are trying to get this old man to drink himself to death to collect the insurance money. So you can see how a 10-year-old might be a little lost. My personal favorite episode was the episode starring Mark Hamill, an episode that single-handedly caused the rise of hoarders in the US to go from 4 million to 15 million. The movie Batteries Not Included, about a tiny robot family getting stuck in the East Village, was originally going to be an episode of the show, but Spielberg felt that the story was so good, it needed to be up on the big screen.
Clearly, this was the coked up Steven Spielberg. Oh, wait, no. That was Stephen King. How else do you explain the child orgy in it?
During the height of Xena Warrior Princess and Hercules The Legendary Journeys, Sam Raimi brought us Cleopatra 2525, a futuristic action-adventure series whose main leads were all women. I would say this show was ahead of its time, but by the year 2000, a lot of shows had women in its lead roles. The plot of the show is, in the year 2525, that's the name of the title of the show, mankind now lives underground due to an invasion from an alien robot species.
Why is it always alien robots? Is this some kind of fetish I haven't heard of?
Called the Baileys.
Oh, come on, it's not that bad.
A small resistance group led by Lawrence Fishburne's ex-wife.
So I don't know her name. Shoot me.
Come across a woman named Cleopatra who has been frozen for over 5 centuries due to some surgery complications.
Probably a botched boob job.
With nothing else left to do with her life, she joins the fight. The show was pretty fast-paced with only a half-hour runtime and contained more than a good amount of action. If you look the show up, it says it was in syndication, which technically is true since the show aired on multiple networks depending on where you live. But since the 2 seasons, 28 episodes, only had one run from January 22nd, 2000 to March 5th, 2001, not counting reruns, it doesn't really count as being syndicated and falls within the rules. Bruce Campbell has played many iconic characters over his career. Ash Williams, Jack Forrest, Briscoe County Jr., that old guy from Burn Notice.
I'm still not sure if that was his actual hair color or if they dyed it.
But not many have heard of Jack Styles from Jack of All Trades. Like Cleopatra 2525, the show technically was in syndication for the same reason.
You know, I'm really starting to think that Sam Raimi is the reason behind the 4 seasons before syndication rule.
The basic premise is, during the turn of the 19th century, Jack Styles, an American secret agent, is sent to the French-controlled island of Pula Pula by President Jefferson. There, he meets his British contact and love interest, English spy Amelia Rothschild. Together, the two work to stop Napoleon and various other threats to the United States. In order to protect his identity as a secret agent, while acting against enemies of America, Jack adopts the identity of the legendary masked hero Zorro, the Daring Dragoon.
It's fucking Zorro.
It's an action comedy show with a lot of clever ongoing gags like historical inaccuracies, Jack being responsible for many important historical events but never receiving any credit, and Amelia inventing a miraculous invention in an obvious Deus Ex Machina. It had its charm, the jokes were pretty clever if you got them, that is, and the action wasn't too bad. The show aired for 2 seasons, from January 22nd, 2000 to December 2nd, 2000 for 22 episodes. Yeah, I know, that sounds weird. One season is in the spring and the other is in the fall. I guess they thought they were going to get a 3rd season. They definitely guessed wrong.
This is how it all began, the true story of 2 good friends. Since the age of 5 could spin their dream to run a scholarship as a team.
Still not ready.
Everything was going cool.
The new Cinemashby t-shirt is here. That's right, you can be the envy of your friends while styling and profiling in your brand new Cinemashby t-shirt. But wait, fashion trend setting isn't the only thing it's good for. It can be used to wash the dishes, scrub the floors, wash yourself, wipe your ass. Warning, do not flush dirt down toilet. Shit! Discipline your pet. Be a superhero. Block the sun. Blow your nose. Wrap your hair. Hide from your enemies. Well, maybe not. Nurse a black eye. And much, much more. Don't delay. To order your new Cinemashby t-shirt, click on the link in the description. Operators are standing by. So this was a show I loved to watch. Airing on the UPN network.
This is before they became the running gag of having really, really bad black television.
This is how it all began, the true story of 2 good friends. Since the
We're getting to that.
For only 1 season, from September 5th, 1995 to July 17th, 1997, consisting of only 13 episodes. I wish I could tell you why it took 2 years to air only 1 season, but I just couldn't find any information on behind-the-scenes aspects other than Leonard Nimoy was involved with the project. What I do know is the first 10 episodes aired in 1995, 11 and 12 aired in 1996, and the finale aired in 1997.
Maybe they were waiting for better special effects to be invented.
I think what attracted me to the show was its premise, and let me tell you, the premise is every geek's wildest dream. A physicist named Gus, having gone through a heartbreaking divorce, created a full-motion video game basing the characters on people in his life, with him as the hero, his ex-wife as a love interest and sidekick, and the villains ranging from his ex-boss to his high school bully.
And that's why there was no mass shootings before 1998. You worked out your shit through video games. Thanks, rating system.
One day, while trying to create energy out of antimatter, his equipment goes haywire and brings all the villains from the game to life.
It's best if you try not to think about the science behind the whole thing. Because it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Now he has to stop Jackal, the main boss of the game, played by Christopher Lloyd, and his henchmen from destroying the world. Each episode played out like a level in a video game and followed video game logic. Jackal himself couldn't be touched until all the henchmen were defeated, and each henchman had different powers, missions, and weaknesses. Quite a number of henchmen were played by a few famous actors at the time as well. Shirley Jones, LeVar Burton, Kathy Ireland, Anthony Michael Hall, Victoria Lynn Ryle, and even Brent Spiner all made appearances. Wait a minute, is that Hawkeye's? The show itself was a bit campy, the effects were cheesy, but it was still a fun show to watch. It was finally released on DVD in 2018, so if you get a chance and enjoy cheesiness, give it a look-see. It just might turn out to be one of your favorite shows.
Hey, you smell good. What is it?
It's my new baby powder.
Uh-oh. Maybe it's a little too strong.
Based off the popular movie Look Who's Talking, Baby Talk was a series adaptation that aired for 2 seasons from March 8, 1991 to May 8, 1992 on ABC. If you've never seen the movie, the plot is an accountant named Maggie, at least I think that was her name in the movie, is having an affair with a married man and gets pregnant. Where the show deviates from the movie is rather than being a secret mistress waiting for him to leave his wife and falling in love with a cab driver, Maggie realizes early he's never going to leave his wife and becomes a single mom living in a currently being renovated loft in Soho, Manhattan. I'm pretty sure it's Soho anyway. Like in the movie, the baby, named Mikey's, and his thoughts were heard by the audience, voiced by Tony Danza.
Who's the boss? Well, it ain't Judith Light.
And it wouldn't be the tail end of 80s sitcoms if Maggie wasn't fending off creeps trying to get her pants and oblivious to the hard-working, good-hearted suitor played by one George Clooney. Greatest American Heroes Connie Silica was the first actor cast in the role of Maggie. But dissatisfied with the role, she quit after a few episodes had been taped and was replaced by Julia Duffy, delaying the premiere from September to March for reshoots. The second season got a complete overhaul, replacing the entire adult cast with the exception of Tony Dancer, and in some cases, so were the characters, including one George Clooney's for Scott Bales.
Boy, would they regret that decision. Much like I'm going to regret the next show up to bat.
Maggie's lifestyle was also changed as she now lived in a trendy uptown apartment with her own accounting firm. Because of this, the ratings came crashing down, being a disappointment to both fans and critics. Now, as far as the show goes, it was actually really funny. However, what made it funny was Mikey's inner thoughts.
Think about Big Bird. You think that guy likes running around that suit with all those feathers? Got to be 180 degrees in there?
There's a person in there.
I guess they realized this and thought that no one would care if they replaced the surrounding cast.
They were wrong.
This is how it all began, the true story of two good friends since the age of 5 could spin their dream.
It's over with.
Well, I certainly saved the worst for last. Homeboys in outer space.
First of all, the fact that those words are coming out of my mouth is a fucking abomination to human dignity.
Was a space comedy that ran for one 22-episode season from August 27, 1996 to May 13, 1997.
Gee, I wonder why.
Even if you get past the name, everything about this show makes you want to set your house on fire.
Not their house, yours. Because you just don't want to live anymore.
The show is full of early stereotype 90s black humor, which was a complete 180 from shows like The Cosby Show a decade earlier.
Look, personally, the man may be a douchebag, but you can't deny that his ideas and show pioneered the way black people were seen on television. And then shows like these took a shit on that progress, placed it in a plastic bag, set it on fire, and threw it on someone's porch to be stomped on.
The show is about two astronauts, Tiberius Ty Walker and Morris Clay, who flew around the universe in a winged car nicknamed the Space Hoopty in the 23rd century. The winged car is a cross between a lowrider and an 18-wheeler. Ty is the brother-in-law to a bar owner named Vasti, who's always sending them on mediocre missions like picking up space pizza. There's this warrior chick who Ty is always hitting on, and the ship's computer is in love with Morris and is named Laquita. What baffles me the most is that James Doohan was a regular on the show. Montgomery Scott was a regular on this show. And no, this was not his starting role.
Whoa, the mind boggles.
And if you think I'm kidding about the humor, well, here you go.
I knew I should have listened to my horoscope. It said I'm going to die.
After I have satisfied my thirst, I shall buy myself a man to satisfy my other desires.
How much you plan on spending? Look, don't blame me. I never heard of fallopian before.
Nobody has. I did some research, and it used to be called Manslaughter House 5. But then the marketing people changed the name in order to attract more 18 to 34-year-old males.
This isn't funny!
Each episode was only a half hour long, and even that was too long. Needless to say, critics hated it, and it was quickly canceled after the first season. And to this day, there is still no DVD release. Let's hope it fucking stays that way.
You know, I never thought there'd be anything I hate more than April Fools, but this show might be it. So that was 9 forgotten television shows, for better or Homeboys in Outer Space. I'm Don Perignon, saving you from getting ripped off. Now, if you excuse me, I need to go set myself on fire.
Pleasure doing business with you, Emperor. Oh, Croaky. This is for the broken window.
What broken window?